Woohoo! We did it. We finished RoboFriends. We finished our app. Now we can forget about it and it's going to live forever and ever on the internet. Right? Well, maybe not. You see, part of using a library is something we've already talked about. A library or a framework is constantly evolving, constantly changing. And every time you use a tool, you usually want to stay up to date. This is one of the challenges with being a programmer, that you always have to stay up to date. I mean, sure, your projects could live on GitHub, but eventually they get stale. If they have a lot of dependencies or libraries that they depend on, then things might not work as intended. Now, this doesn't mean that you always have to jump on the latest and greatest. And as libraries come up with new features, you don't necessarily need to jump on them right away. But in these next couple of videos, I want to actually show you what my steps are and what most programmers' steps are when things change. Because if you have an application that is running, that has users, most of the time you want to keep things up to date. And this is something we've already talked about. But what about things like React? We learned about React in this course, and we're starting to get comfortable with it. But again, because it's a library, it gets updates because it's being used by companies like Facebook that has teams that constantly need new things, find challenges, and want to improve it. Ideally, things are always improving. So React had a big update. As of version 16.8, it got something called hooks. Now, if you know anything about React, everybody is going a little crazy with hooks because they are quite a big shift. They are exciting, but can also be intimidating for a beginner. And you can see over here in their documentation that they have a new section on React hooks. Over the next couple of videos, we're going to be talking about React hooks, what they are, why they're useful. But instead of just showing you point by point, as it is in the documentation, how hooks work, because let's be honest, you're able to do that on your own. That's what these documentations are for. I want to show you the process, how I would learn something new when a library changes, when a library has a new feature. Now, the reason I haven't talked about hooks up until now is that, well, even React documentation actually doesn't talk about hooks until way later in their guide. When you learn about React, their main concept, some of the advanced guys, some API references, they don't mention hooks until the very end. So when you learn about React, it's good to put off hooks until you actually understand the concepts, which hopefully you do until now. So let's say React comes up with hooks. How would you go about learning it? Well, obviously you'd start off with the documentation and start going through it and actually understand it. Now, starting in the next video, we're going to learn about hooks, but I'm going to show you the process of how I would learn about hooks and then also convert our RoboFriends app from using the class stateful components to using React hooks so that you can compare them side by side and see what the differences are. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.